evening to all of you. Audible enough? Yes, sir. Thank you. It's always a humbling experience for me to be in this institute. And I make it a point to acknowledge that. I did mention a couple of times already during the last 30 minutes that Professor Balasubramanian was my professor of human resource way back in 1996. The first and fundamental principles of human resource management, I did learn from him. And it's a humbling experience that he sits and listens to this next 1 hour of thoughts that I wish to share with you. Thank you for this opportunity. I've been reading a book titled 108 Skills of Successful Leaders, authored by Warren Harris. He makes it explicitly clear, any speaker gets only 8 seconds to impress an audience. I think I've lost that opportunity. 8 seconds have already been over since I started speaking. It is also said, any speaker can at best speak sense only for 15 minutes. And any great audience can listen to sense only for 15 minutes. By that definition, 45 minutes of the session is going to be somewhat tough, I should assume and anticipate. Typically, when I go for a conference of this type, I also make it a point to tell them the variety of audience that you find. Typically, there are 4 types of people who sit in an audience of this type. The first category is classified as vacationers. People who think, well, there is nothing better to do. I've been invited to listen to someone who probably may know something. Let me sit, however, primarily let me be vacationing out there. The second category of people are said as hostages. It's almost mandated that you do nothing but go and sit down and listen. Third category is said to be observers. You had a long introduction of 17 years attempting to do certain things with certain organizations. Successful or not, you are not too sure. You would like to observe and probably convince yourself. And the fourth category is said to be listeners and learners. My experience with this place has always been that the fourth category is the largest number in an institute like this, and that has been my personal experience. So therefore, I'm excited to be here to spend this next 45 minutes. Well, my dear friends, I've been reading another book because I'm pretty passionate about understanding the latest trends in people management. And the book that I was reading actually was giving a powerful message. Adult learning is more through fun than anything else. And that has made life almost miserable for a lot of people. Because how do you make adult learning fun? Or how can learning happen through fun? Let me make a few attempts at least to narrate a few stories and pass on certain message. I'm not too sure if you have read a story of Mother Camel and Baby Camel. Anybody has? Okay. So that gives me enough confidence. A mother camel and a baby camel in a zoo. The baby camel, as usual, starts asking questions. Mommy, tell me, what is this hump on the back that I see for you and me? So the mother camel explains, well, we live in desert. And sometimes we have to live for days together without food and water. So this to some extent help us to survive in situations such as this. Baby camel is convinced. After some time asks the second question, why is it that you and me have got long legs? Mother camel answers, well, we live in desert we at times need to take long walks to reach certain places. And these long legs actually help us achieve that. Baby camel looks fairly satisfied. Inquisitive as it is, continues to ask the third question. Why is it that we have long eyelashes? Mother camel answers, well, as I said, we live in desert. Sometimes there can be powerful winds, wherein a lot of sand actually gets splashed on the face. These eyelashes actually help us protect us at least some time. After a while, baby camel asks the question, why the hell are we doing then in this zoo? Why are we here in the zoo if we are meant to live in a desert? I want to ask this question. Looking at some of you, extremely handsome and beautiful looking, why the hell are you here? You may not have the hump, long leg and eyelashes, but everything that is required to be sophisticated professionals in life. Are you sure you are at the right place in the first place? Yes. Thank you. Here goes the other story. A king had a daughter, princess, to be married off. Obviously, the king wants to make sure, like any other proud father, the best of bridegroom is chosen for this. Sends out an advertisement, almost calling for people qualified. Lot of aspirants applied. Naturally, if you had the opportunity, you would also have applied, right? Why you? Me would also have applied because the opportunity. Lot of applicants. The test was pretty tough. All contestants, applicants were asked to line up, and there was a pool that they had to swim across. And the pool was full of venomous snakes and all deadly creatures that can live in water. Whistle was given. You saw only one jumping into the water. Swam across. The whole crowd gathered over there, including the king, ran across to embrace and congratulate him, and was wanting to ask certain questions. So this particular person, wait for a minute. I want to know who pushed me inside. Well, my dear friends, lot of times things happen in our life. Is it that someone has pushed you inside because of which it has happened to you? And so therefore you try to survive and somehow make sense out of it? The topic of my today's discussion, discern your vocation, is the first part. In life, people go through spending time discerning, is this what I want to do in life? And I tell you, it doesn't matter. You are probably at the age of 20, 21. If you haven't done that, spend another 2 more years in this institute. Discern for yourself, what is your vocation? What is the meaning of the word vocation? Anybody? Vocation comes from the Latin word vocare. Vocare means to call. Vocation means, therefore, call. What is my call to be? I'm very sure many of you are aspiring to be human resource specialist. Quite a lot of you are aspiring to be, let's say, system specialist. Many of you are aspiring to be marketing/business development specialist, so on and so forth. The point is, did you discern it for yourself? Did someone push you into this place? Or like the way the baby camel was asking, what the hell are we doing here, by the way? If you are meant to live in desert, we must as well be there. Have you discerned it? I understand this is one of those very few institutes that spend quality time, that gives quality time to students to recollect and discern. You are still in your induction and orientation days in this institute. You must listen to as many people as possible. However, at the end of it, you should have an answer. Is this what you want to do? Discern for yourself. So that's one part of my presentation. I may not have too many slides to cover that. I like to park it as a thought with you. And the other thing, assume that most of you would have discerned your vocation to be whatsoever, whosoever. Therefore have come into this place. would like to spend some time, how do you build employability? Purpose of education is very clear, that all of us should be able to earn enough to live happily. Getting a job is not the objective. Getting a job that provides you satisfaction, that gives you enough of earning opportunity is what the objective is. I mean, in a casual conversation, while I was chatting with professors over here, someone did make a statement by saying, more than 50% of people who pass out of this institute, not this, these institutes, are not employable. Why? Are they not educated? Is it not that the university has granted a degree to them? Why is it that they are not employable? To me, employability does not come because you have a degree. Employability entails certain qualities. Degree, of course, is a kind of passport for you to present yourself. You will go through a kind of strict filtering in terms of certain aspects. I continue to spend some time together with you doing certain recollection. Who are you fundamentally? We talked about discernment, we talked about employability, and we are asking the fundamental question, who are you? My dear friends, it's important for you to realize who are you and who do you belong to? Who do you belong to? If you look at 24% of the world population belong to an age category of 40 to 60 years old, popularly classified as baby boomers. All of us understand this. 26% of the population belong to 30 to 45 years, obviously all of us understand, called as Gen X category. 50% of the population actually belong to 20 to 30 years, called as Gen Y. 98% of people who sit here belong to Gen Y category. 98, which means you. So therefore it's imminent for you to realize, who are you? Look at what has been generally defined as what Gen Y category is. Gen Y category, of course, is immensely growth focused, highly ethical, absolutely technology savvy, values and principles, ethos, belief systems. They need recognition, pat on the back practically at the end of every day. Anti-authority, they may not stand up and salute. They may not believe in Maharaja culture of being addressed as sirs. May not want to do that. Obviously they are trendy. I, me and myself. Open communication. Hugely networked. Question is, why work? They have this question, why do I work? For Gen Y it is said, work is only a means to an end. Work is not an end in itself. For people who sit in this first row, probably from here to here, including me, work is an end in itself. We get up Monday morning only to go to office or our workplace. Gen Y would get up, would think of everything else in life to do on a Monday morning, except probably going to the college or the workplace. I mean, it's important for us to realize that's what you are. Why work is the question they ask. Their end could be to probably to buy the most sophisticated and luxurious of the cars. Or probably they would like to go for a world tour. Or may like to get married to someone they happen to fall in love. Or forget about fall in love, fall in. And that's what they want to. As long as they are able to achieve, they will continue to work. The moment they have achieved their objective, and the means which was work actually becomes unimportant. I speak with 17 years of experience in HR. My passion, of course, or my weakness is what I call it as compulsory obsessive assessment and observation of people. I belong to a workplace wherein 68% of people belong to Gen Y category. So I have no choice but to learn about their psychology or what they want in workplace. I have been attempting to define a workplace theme around Gen Y category just to make sure that the place is appealing enough. That does not mean we discourage people from coming to office because they don't like to work. That's not what I meant to say. Little more statistics. If you look at India, Gen Y category, if you look at India probably has the largest number of Gen Y category at this point of time. Again, look at the word. Not all are employment ready, and so their talents are in short supply. If you look at 99% of organizations in Pune today would have at least 5% of their total workforce as open requirement. In my place, I have close to probably around 15% of the total workforce planned for the year as open requirements at this point of time. I have positions that I've been trying to fill in for the last 6 months' time. We don't find talent. We are willing to pay. We don't find talent. What is the reason? Probably the right investment did not happen at the right point of time. There are graduates, postgraduates, people with experience of, let's say, 10 plus years, still not employable. They have a job, still not employable. So therefore, it's important to understand some of these aspects as to how do we build employability. This is a slide just before I get into the employability building slide. Trying to help you recognize yourself. Who are you? I already covered some of these aspects. What do they typically want? They look at simplicity, absolutely no loyalty to anybody, I, me, myself. Money matters a lot because that means a lot to them because they have an end that they would like to achieve and the time frame to achieve is very limited. They have a lot of questions to ask. They like to ask that. Want a lot of flexibility. Obviously me first. Is a kind of belief system that they hold. Let me define what is employability. Hopefully people who are at the back row can read this. An interviewer, let's assume head of human resource, ask the question. I ask all prospective employees this question to test their reasoning. You have 1 fox and 2 chickens that you need to get across a river. You can only take 1 at a time in a rowboat. The fox will eat chickens if left alone. Candidate, I would buy livestock insurance, then barbecue the chickens and blame the fox. I wish students of this institute makes such interview response and make the process very short. Can you start from today? That's what employability is. My slides, reminder of my slides are very, very basic thoughts. But employability defined clearly over here. Talking about building employability, what is stopping you from achieving that? We have several mental blocks. I'm very sure all of us have seen elephants. Anybody who hasn't seen elephant? If you say, I'm very sure Professor Bala will arrange a trip to help you see an elephant. So whoever has not seen should go and see. Those of you who have seen elephant will also probably have seen small elephants. Have you? Yes, sir. Obviously. I don't know if you have seen places where elephants are being tamed, domesticated. Down in south, I come from extreme south Kerala, a place pretty popular for some of these initiatives, taming wild animals, specifically elephants. Inevitably, you see big elephants being tied with small ropes or chain, and small elephants being tied with big ropes or big chains. Have you seen that? Yes, sir. Did you ask this question why? Yes, sir. Okay, so you have the answer as well, right? Yes, sir. Elephant, when it was small, made enough of attempt to break away, shaking the legs as many times as required. However, realized, I am tied. So after some time, it gave up. So even if there is nothing tied, or if the elephant is not hooked, The big elephant will stay at its place, very clear. It has created that mental block. Conditioning is nothing but creating these mental blocks. Ivan Pavlov, an American psychologist, talks of similar examples in multiple ways. He talks about a shark and a small fish in an aquarium. Shark makes attempt to eat the small fish. After a few days, aquarium is divided into two parts with a glass partition. The shark makes kind of violent attempt to go across, goes and hits the glass partition, goes back. It makes another attempt in a day, third and fourth, fifth. Glass partition is removed. The shark comes up to the glass partition and goes back. Partition exists in the, it exists only in the mind. My dear friends, talking about employability, these are two best examples that I can tell you. Any blocks that you can think of, it exists only in your mind. You may have blocks like, I come from the interior most parts of this country. I have done my graduation or all my schooling in a vernacular school. Therefore, I do not speak the sophisticated language of English, which is a business language, although I said it as sophisticated. I may not have passed out of the best of schools. I may not have been born to best of parents, most educated. Well, some of these are mental blocks. Well, my dear friends, permit me to speak one more minute about me as an individual. I passed my 10th standard. I had only 25 marks for English, subject 1 and 2 together. Paper number 1, 12, paper number 2, 13, put together 25. Is there anybody here who has scored less than 25 marks for English out of 100? No, if there is someone, I will hire you immediately. Point is, I discerned my vocation when I looked at my progress card. 25 doesn't take you anywhere. Joined for my +1, +2 in a kind of unique environment. We were 35 of us in the batch. I was obviously 35th. No one could have scored less than 25. There was only one person who had first class mark for English as a language, and that was me. Ever since, language as a mental barrier got out. Today it's fun for me. The best thing I like to do is to check dictionary. The best thing I like to do is to listen to someone who speaks good English. The best thing I take away from a session such as this is jargons and phrases of the day. That's what I continue to learn. You just need to remove the mental blocks. Very, very simple. Ordinary people with extraordinary achievements. Unfortunately, what is written here probably is not legible to you. What it says is a candidate for a news broadcaster's post was rejected because of his voice. He was also told that with his obnoxiously long name, he would never be famous. And all of us understand what happened and who it is. A small boy, the fifth among us 7 siblings of a poor father, was selling newspapers in a small village to earn his living. Obviously, you know who the person is. A school teacher scolded by a boy for not paying attention to mathematics. I know you will know this person because several of you have got similar background, including me. My dear friends, ordinary people with extraordinary achievement. Mental blocks, we must remove. Learning from leaders, common people with uncommon or commonplace problems. Ordinary people, ordinary problems. Common people with indomitable willpower. I will do. Common people with clear objectives. What is it that they want to achieve? Common people with uncommon passion, commitment and motivation. This morning at 10 o'clock, we had a candidate with 20 years of experience, specialized in IT infrastructure management. My head of business for IT infrastructure management had only one question to ask. And I was surprised. Why is he not asking any questions? Finally, we were to make up our mind to select or not. I was trying to ask all sorts of technical questions because my partner wasn't asking any. He had only one question to ask. What is your passion? What do you want to do? Imagine you are asking this question to someone who has spent 20 years working, earning decent. Point is, he wasn't able to explain what his passion was. Infrastructure has got various aspects. One could end up doing remote desktop management or basic things in infrastructure. One could move to slightly sophisticated aspects of networks. Can also get into little more sophisticated aspects of server management. What is your passion? Important. Should you have that, you will make it happen. So that's what my partner was trying to understand. Joy is someone with 20 years of experience. You don't need to ask, do you know X, Y, Z? He or she ought to know. But passion aspect. Self-motivated, they don't need to be motivated. Unfortunately, Gen Y, we saw the slide. They would look for a pat on the back, recognition practically end of the day. The world does not give you that, just as a preparation. As an individual, it does not matter where you start, where you finish. All competitions, 100 meters dash, 1000 meters dash, nobody keeps record of when did one start. All records are about when did someone finish. So be the case with you. Where did you start is not a relevant question for you anymore. Where did you finish is what people will ask you. As an individual, you are responsible for your own success. You have absolutely no right to point out to your parents, your early education, and currently to this institute. If you haven't been successful, please tell yourself with all humility, you did not create success for yourself. And that's what it is. I want you to assume this sense of responsibility right at the start of your academic year, when you are beginning your formation. Talking about developing employability, fundamental things. I obviously showed you a picture, a cartoon. What does it mean to be employable? I'm just trying to decode a few more aspects of employability. Develop communication skills. I'm very sure you would never have expected me to play this slide here. My dear friends, every organization spends at least 1% of their training budget on communication related training programs. And these are organized for whom? People who are in the managerial cadre. People who have an MBA degree. And they are still trying to learn. In my organization, one of the very frequently run program, communication skills. Two aspects I would like to insist on here. One, the fundamental disposition to speak, which is called communication. There is a philosopher by name Karl Jaspers, who thinks and preaches silence is the ultimate in communication. Point is, Karl Jaspers has got a lot of followers. There are several of us who believe that silence is the ultimate in communication, and I practice. In a corporate life, my dear friends, unless you begin to speak, people will not hear you. So therefore, disposition to speak. Developing employability, disposition to speak. Secondly, medium of your communication. Business language obviously is English. If you haven't picked it up, 2 more years in this campus. Beginning from now, pay attention. What are we talking about? People who have lived as couples for 25 years, on a fine morning, gets up and makes comment to each other, I never understood you. They have never spoken for past 25 years. Obviously, you may have been in friendship with someone or the other, or in relationship with someone or the other, having spent a reasonable amount of time. Suddenly you would also make a statement by saying, but I never understand you. What are you trying to say? My dear friends, communication has always been a problem. We speak. Speaking is not communication, by the way. Create the desired effect in the partner of communication. You want to tell somebody a message, and that could be to inspire someone. It could be to inform somebody. It could be, let's say, to excite somebody. You should be able to create that desired effect in your partner in communication. All of you are going to be, sooner than later, in a position, in a role, wherein that need to create the desired effect in the partner in communication would be required. Nothing is going to come to your aid at that point of time. Build your employability quotient today. Learn it, start practicing. Effective communication is therefore ability to leave people energized at the end. Now, I do not know whether I am an effective communicator. I would be one if at the end of the session, if I leave you charged up, energized, at least for a few days, and help you come up with a few resolves that you may like to work through for the next 2 years. I would have created the desired effect in the partner in communication that I see. This is communication style of high impact people. All of you are called upon to be, your vocation is to be high impact people in the organization. You obviously ought to make a difference to the function that you are responsible for, the organization that you are going to be part of. So therefore you are going to be high impact people. Your performance or non-performance in the organization will make a difference starting with the function and at the organization level. So therefore, good thing is effective communication is a mastered discipline. So therefore, if you haven't developed it so far or not been born with it, you have the opportunity to develop it because it's a master discipline. Learn to focus on solutions. There are several examples given. Unfortunately, the young generation, when they are of course given a problem, they get overwhelmed by the enormity of the problem and then do not look at the solutions. So the need of the hour is to learn to look at solutions. There are hundreds of them. I typically tell people, a lock maker or a lock, every lock, the moment it comes to your hand, you should know that it has got a key to open. There is no lock without a key. So is the case with the problem. If something is defined as a problem, please know there is a solution to it. It's a question of applying it. I'm very sure you may have heard about this most popularly narrated example of what happened in a Japanese manufactory, right? Have you heard or not? Okay, for the benefit of those of us who have not heard, there was this manufactory based out of Japan to home appliance or other, personal products, cosmetic stuff. One of those products used to be soap, and there used to be this nagging issue of 1 out of every 1,000 customer who buys this product used to get an empty soap box, and this was such an embarrassment for the organization. Suddenly a customer out of 1,000 gets up and puts up a kind of comment by saying, "Well, did you know that I got an empty soap box from this organization when I bought a soap?" Serious issue, lot of R&D. Company invested in high precision X-ray machines. Problem was not solved. Someone like you, young enough, who did not get overwhelmed by the issue around, proposed a simple solution. Let's keep an industrial pedestal fan at the finishing point of the assembly line so that when the soap boxes are passing through the conveyor belt, it gets blown off. Simplest of solutions. And that was the solution. You probably have heard about the experiment that was done to invent a pen when NASA was preparing their first batch of astronauts to space. It was said Americans spent a decade plus $12 billion to invent a pen that works in zero gravity, that would work even under the sea. And history says Russians rather started using pencil. Enough of examples, simple enough for us to understand that you should learn to focus on solutions. As Gen Y, if you can develop this cutting competence, as I always call it as, obviously your employability will be one up. Stop worrying, start thinking. Stop worrying, start thinking. Now, if you ask me, thinking is the toughest of job. Sometimes I go for meetings and my boss poses certain questions and challenges and he tells me, "Joy, come back with your thoughts on this." I go back and look at my colleagues and then I typically look at, what sort of work do they do? Give me this report, do this analysis, make this presentation. Sometimes I tell myself, how easier life would have been if I were to be asked to do these things rather than think and come with a solution. Thinking is pain, but thinking is strength. If only you think, you get a solution. All your studies, academic input that happens here will help you only to a certain extent. Unless you begin to think and cultivate that thinking habit, you are not going to grow. Because the academic inputs will start stopping or ending after, let's say, 2 more years. But if your thinking process does not continue, obviously you will not find solution. Somerset Maugham. Who was Somerset Maugham, by the way? Anybody with English literature background here? Anybody? Nobody? I'm a loner here. Have you heard of Somerset Maugham?
Yes, sir. Somerset Maugham.
Yes. Who was he?
He was a writer.
Fantastic. An English poet and a writer. Talks about a situation in one of his writings. In England, olden days, there was this rule. In olden days, there was this assignment of ringing church bells. And I think they used to call this particular person as a sexton, whose responsibility was to ring church bells. Obviously, morning there is a bell, in the afternoon there is a bell, evening 8 o'clock there is a bell. All kinds of reminders that you probably be mindful of God, whatever. Suddenly there was a change in the situation. English church came up with a rule that all those who are in the service of ringing church bell, now onwards, should be literate. It is said more than 70% of people who were in the church, who were in the business of or in the job of ringing church bell, were illiterate, absolutely clueless. Deadline, 70% of people suddenly becoming redundant, jobless. There was this one elderly person who actually started thinking, and he thought, like many of us, if I were to take a couple of smokes, probably my thinking ability would speed up. So he started looking for a cigarette somewhere in the lane, and he realized he almost had to walk 5 kilometers or rather 4 miles to find a cigarette shop to find a cigarette. And he started thinking, oh, there would be several people out of those 70% of people who actually may take 8 to a cigarette as part of their thinking process. He continued to think, oh, it may well be the case that all these churches may not have a kind of cigarette shop anywhere close by. He started thinking, it may be a great idea to start a small cigarette shop close by the church. And he did so. It was said his business flourished. Obviously, those of us who have visited UK, England, will probably know you will find number of churches. It was said eventually he turned out to be one of the biggest businessmen in that place. And he had a kind of corporate account with a bank. And probably he was one of the let's say highest net worth individual in that bank, banking with that particular bank. There was this annual ceremony bank organized, wanted to felicitate some of this big time businessmen. He was called upon to stage, felicitated, was given a memento, and was asked to write a few words, and he politely acknowledged, sorry, I'm illiterate. So therefore this big question, what would have been the case if he were to be literate? And he responded, I would have been only ringing the church bells. Point is very simple. Somerset Maugham makes the message very clear. Keep thinking. You will obviously find solution. And those solutions can actually be a kind of leap into giant success. If only we are willing to put to use this beautiful part that God has given you. My dear friends, manage your time. Manage your time. Professor Bala told me that we will have at least 12 hours of input here. And some of us may not be very happy to hear that, because there are several things that we want to achieve. Now the success is in achieving all those several things despite spending these 12 hours here. Managing time. I will actually it will come up in one of my slides. One of those important questions asked by a CEO in an interview was, what do you do in your pastime? Now let me anticipate that slide over here and ask you this question. What do you do in your spare time? Actually, that determines what sort of a success are you going to create in your career. All of us have got a lot of spare time, so to say. What do you do with that? And that was a kind of selection question asked to a potential leader. I will play that slide for you a little later. My dear friends, willingness to change, absolutely essential. What typically happens is, after 2 years of sophisticated management, stuff that has been run through our throat, we also develop what's called as, immunity. No more change. I have been groomed enough. I know well enough. In control of my destiny, not only mine, a few others. Not wanting to change at all. The picture clearly explains. If you are not willing to change, you are not going to evolve into a beautiful being that you actually aspire to. So that willingness to change. What are we talking about? We are talking about building employability. This question is going to be asked to you. Well, you have a completely different environment. The symbiotic intimacy that you had with your previous organization or current organization, with your people process, is cut now. You are suspended into a kind of uncertain environment. Are you willing to go through that change? Are you willing to take up that sort of a challenge? Things are uncertain, absolutely chaotic. Now, are you willing to change? Is the question. So therefore, build this as one of the core competencies when you are looking at building your own employability. Keep deadlines and commitments. Unfortunate, you and me Indians, infamous for keeping commitments. Even today, when I send a mail to my counterpart sitting in UK with an affirmative answer, well, this will be done in next 12 hours. Obviously, I get a response. What did you mean by that? Am I going to get it done on time or not? Obviously, they need a second response by saying, well, you will get it. Why this second line? Why this second message? They still do not have that confidence that you will deliver it on time. Anybody who hasn't eaten a pizza? Or you haven't eaten? During the next 2 years, one of the objectives you should have is to eat a pizza. Point is, I was happy to be part of a session conducted by the managing director of Domino's Pizza. And he narrated the story of pizza making. If you look at the life behind making the pizza was much more exciting than you imagining to eat a pizza. The life behind making the pizza was much more exciting than you eating a pizza. So you can imagine what sort of an excitement. Lot of fun, lot of dance, lot of singing that happens. Every time they make a pizza, they create a sense of accomplishment among them, others. Point is simple. If you order a pizza, they give you a commitment. What is the commitment they give you? We'll deliver it in 30 minutes. My dear friends, Domino's Pizza has this punchline and this service commitment even before you were born. They have been changed by saying, Pune as a city has outgrown, traffic situation has increased, Palki processions come out during June, July. We have an issue in delivering it in 30 minutes, so therefore we will extend it by 30 minutes. Never ever. If Domino's Pizza as an organization can take a commitment that we will deliver it to you and delight you in next 30 minutes, why is it that you and me cannot deliver our commitment, which is independently, singly dependent on me? No rain, no traffic situation, nothing. I'm not constrained or bound by anything. Why is it that we are not able to fulfill our commitment? It may be absolutely coincidental that Professor Bala did ask this question. Have you taken note of the protocols of this place? Did you make sure the guest of the day has arrived on time? Have you made sure everything is set in place? Everything is important. Essentially, have you kept those commitments that you have together agreed in terms of protocols that needs to be followed? Very small, very important, high impact creating. My dear friends, challenge yourself. If you want to create employability, challenge yourself. No point in asking big time questions to people around, including your professors and eventually your bosses and managers. Question to you is, have you achieved it? A simple thumb test that is used in psychology. When a task is given to you and you get a feeling, well, I can do this. It is said you are operating only at 50% of your capability. So have you challenged yourself really? Is this all that I can do? It's important for you to challenge yourself. Look at some of these incidents. The first match, probably IPL, not sure if this is the right example to recall. However, there have been a lot of learning from the first session, first version of the IPL. The first match, Rajasthan Royals lose to Delhi Daredevils. Shane Warne keeps the faith that his team can bounce back. While every team is doing elaborate video and computer analysis of matches, Shane Warne plays an inspirational video for the team. He is understood to have told the team, do not worry about lengthy competition analysis. In the end, you are only challenging and competing with yourself. Absolutely powerful leadership message ever delivered by a captain in cricket field, according to me. Limited knowledge though. You are only challenging and competing with yourself. Have you ever done that? You have challenged and competed with people around you. But what about you? Look at the next two words. Matches are won on the ground. Use common sense. You play the ball, not the bowler. How many captains give that instruction? Now, what happens to you if you have been playing a cricket and if you have been a bowler or if you have been a batsman? You actually play the bowler, not the ball. Because you get agitated, irritated. You want to show him or her a lesson and you miss to play the ball. Very clear instruction. Challenge yourself. Do not challenge the bowler. Let him challenge himself, is the message. Declare war on mediocrity. Second powerful message, if you ask me, that Shane Warne gave during the first version of IPL. History, obviously many of you will know. Shane Warne calls the team for a serious post-match chat because Rajasthan suffered a big 7-wicket defeat. He is understood to have said that you slogged across the line and heading to patchiness. Was that part of the role that we agreed? Sorry if you breached the script, no place here. He makes it amply clear that mediocrity has no place in my team. Now, I do not know how many of you have kept track with the Rajasthan Royals as a team. I have no stakes in Rajasthan Royals team, by the way, just to make sure that things are clear for you. I am very passionate about the success they created. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, that I have a kind of compulsory obsessive behavior of observing people, events, just to see if there is anything that I can learn. And obviously you know the story, you know the outcome, what happened. Rajasthan Royals created success from an absolutely mediocre team. And a lot of credit for that success is ascribed to Shane Warne's leadership capability. As leaders, point number one, you should look at those leadership capabilities. As individuals, you obviously should look at those leadership messages that are being given. Challenge oneself, declare war on mediocrity, and there are several more. In the interest of time, I've only selected very few slides. My dear friends, personal discipline. Professor Pari opened a highly controversial topic during the informal chat with me and other professors at the table by saying, sooner than later, there are going to be virtual institutes wherein learning will be highly technology enabled. A lot of us will sit and learn at our own convenient places, at will, at leisure, at pleasure. I'm very sure many of you are delighted, right? You're actually thinking through, I should have been late by at least 5 years when this concept is actually fully evolved. I had only one observation to say. Well, all learning that might happen, all education might happen through virtual sessions. But the formation that I was talking about, which is not education. Education is formation of the intellect. Formation is that of the heart, mind, soul and intellect, which also involves personal discipline. That part will never be achieved through a kind of virtual session. Napoleon Bonaparte, have you heard of? Who was he? Was he great? Obviously, otherwise why will you know? He was one of the most successful military leader, French military leader, so to say. During his rule, there was this rule that all soldiers should go to sleep by 9 o'clock. Now imagine if this institute comes up with a rule that all of you should go for a walk early morning at 5 o'clock. What will be the reaction? Huge, because I can hear this honeybee sound. Huge reaction. It will be as many as present here. Very, very big. Why? Because all of us have got our own views and thoughts as why we should not go for a walk, or why I should be given an exception. I have my own fitness program. I'm tuned to do it in the evening, or I do yoga. It's why all kinds of explanation, self-satisfying theories, self-convincing theories around. Napoleon was very clear. No theory, it is my theory, because I believe in certain things. All should go to sleep. And he had his own mechanism of checking it, whether this is followed or not. On a particular day, it so happened, he took a walk through the place where the young soldiers were sleeping. Probably there was a batch of the similar size that's present over here. And in the farthest corner of the dormitory is the place where these soldiers actually go to sleep. There was this small candlelight burning. Napoleon went close to that place and overlooked through the shoulder, only to read a very heart-melting letter being written by a young soldier to his mother. Some of the words in this letter was, "My dearest mummy, my training will take another 3 more months' time. All my prayers and good wishes will help you stay good and healthy until I come and see you again. Fatal sickness declared by doctors are only declarations. God decides the destiny." He tapped on the back and told him, "Please write one more sentence. Dearest mummy, this is my last letter to you." And the soldier immediately wrote, "This is my last letter to you, mummy." And Napoleon ordered that this young soldier be shot dead immediately, and he was shot dead immediately. Napoleon declared 2 awards, both of them posthumous. One for the love of this young man for his mother. Second, for the immediate obedience. No questions asked. My dear friends, discipline can be brutal. Success means brutal discipline sometimes. You may not be willing to digest this. Come to think of it, we are talking of building employability. Personal discipline, sorry, no compromise. We live in an era of flexibility. In my office, we believe in this principle of people should work in the office when they are best at. Which meant, if some would like to start at 9, so be it. Some would like to start at 11, so be it. Few of us would like to work from home for a few days, so be it. However, flexibility cannot become uncertainty. Let us be very clear, flexibility cannot become uncertainty. So therefore, that personal discipline aspect that you should pick up during the next 2 years of your formation here, never to be ignored. I already touched upon this slide, get fit, keep fit. Not too much of explanation required. All of us understand health is wealth. All of us understand sound mind resides only in a sound body. Health is a gift from God. Obviously, gift needs to be nurtured. Cultivate that habit of making sure that you are kind of, fit enough for the corporate assignment. Unfortunately, the world will not sympathize with you for a longer time. They will give you an early concession. But after that, it's important for you to take care of your health. Start paying attention early enough. Imagine a situation. You are freshly hired. 2 weeks, you have fallen sick. Another 2 more weeks. Another bout of sickness. Another 2 weeks of office. 1 month of rest. Another 2 more weeks of attention. Requires a longer rest. Now, which employer can sympathize with you? Tell me in this competitive environment. Which employer can help? Which employer can sympathize with you and for how long? Therefore, do not overlook this aspect. Do not overlook. Several organizations come out with fitness programs in the organization. Organizations do spend money. The interesting slide that I was talking about. I was glancing through Economic Times. There was this initiative of young leaders. I'm sure many of you would have read some of these articles at least. Lot of interesting learnings. 8 questions from 8 CEOs. If you ask me, the moment your CEO is going to interview, you would obviously brush up everything that you have learned, heard, received as insight, done in life, and you go thoroughly prepared because in your favorite jargon, you want to crack it, right? You want to crack it. Look at the type of questions. What is the first question being asked? Why are you here? What drives you? Right? Very plain and simple question. Now, what answer can you give? Question is simple, answer is difficult. It cannot be like that young baby camel asked this question. Why the hell are we doing, what the hell are we doing in the zoo? Question may have that sort of an implication. Down in south, there used to be this tradition of piercing the earlobes. I do not know if that tradition is continued any longer. There was this IAS aspirant appearing for his interview. Presented himself or herself, presented himself. First question, why are these 2 holes here? And he responded, questions such as this should not enter my ears, it should pass through these holes. Point is, such opportunities do not come your way very often. And such answers may not be seen as answers by everybody smart enough. You need to have a kind of convincing story that you create for yourself as part of developing your employability. Why are you here? And what drives you? Look at the second question. What defines you as an individual? Obviously, I'm not going into the details of who has asked. All the names, details are there. They are people with no less stature in the industry, you know that. Some of the biggest names in the industry that you can think of. Vineet Nair, HCL chief. In a way, yeah. So asking the question, if you could go back to your previous employer as a CEO, what changes would you implement? Type of question being asked. Look at the third question. How do you define success? All of us, if you are asked the question, would you not want to succeed? You would like to. But how do you define success? Have you ever thought? Does it mean that you get to the head of the function in next 5 years' time? Is it that you are able to initiate breakthrough changes in the organization? What defines success? Or is it that probably you are on the highest side of pay package, you have almost overpriced yourself from a compensation perspective? Is that what you define as success? What is it? You should know. Look at the fourth question. If you were me, what are the top 3 things would be looking for in a young leader? Did you ever ask this question? If not, you should start asking this question. What are those 3 top things that I should cultivate in me as a young leader? You must ask this question. You must ask this question because these questions have been asked by young leaders, by top-notch, let's say CEOs of this country, who have created immense business success for their respective business areas. Look at question number 5. What are the qualities a leader of tomorrow should possess as opposed to a leader of today? Do you have an answer? Have you ever thought through that the leadership qualities that are required to lead the generation tomorrow would be different? And you are going to do that. You are going to do that. How do you keep updating yourself? This is one of my favorite questions. I ask them, how do you keep updating yourself? And typically you get the answer, I have this social network, I have this LinkedIn, I have this connection. My question is very simple. All those things exist. How do you keep yourself? Do you read newspaper? My plain question. Again, what newspaper and which section? Equally important. Do you read certain business magazines? Very important. You read it because you would like to keep yourself updated. Look at the last question. There are several questions. What do you do in your spare time? A CEO asking a question. I'm very sure this will be the toughest of answers and least convincing to anybody. Probably quite a lot of us get disqualified. All other questions, we would have fared well. What do you do in your spare time? I do nothing. And the response will be, don't do it here. You have no place to do it here. Will be the response you will receive. Very, very simple. Well, we need to develop the employability. Time is restricted. We obviously need to wind up this session. Good to discuss, but it's important to adhere to timelines as well. A few other important things. Asking questions. What are we talking about? We are talking about developing employability. We have discerned our vocation to be leaders. Gen Next leaders, let's put it in that way. So we have therefore convinced ourselves our vocation is to lead people, lead business, lead organization. And we are wanting to know how do we develop those employability in me as an individual. And we have gone through a small list of things. Apparently very, very ordinary things. Very, very ordinary things, but immensely overlooked. Immensely overlooked. Just want to add a few more things. Is there anything that you are not familiar with? Sometimes, me looking at this slide, I wonder, can this actually create success? Actually, it can create success. Your ability to ask questions. The other day I read an article, not an article, a quote in Economic Times by a philosopher called Voltaire. Man in the universal sense of man and woman are to be judged by not the type of answers they give, but the type of questions they ask. Some of you may have seen that quote. A philosopher saying, people are to be judged not by the answers they give, but by the type of questions they ask. If you want to be heard, please speak up. If you want to be seen, please stand up. If you want to be respected, please sit down and listen. All these three things are equally important. And you need to practice it as part of you building employability. Self-motivated, we already covered. Be creative. You continue to do what you do. You will continue to be where you are. And that's given. What you have done today is a thing of the past. What can you do differently is what will determine your success. Therefore, there you have no choice but to be creative, innovative. A lot of initiatives happen in the organization to encourage these qualities of ideation, creativity, innovation, and the like. Do not limit yourself. Attention to detail. Every small written mail has your name and signature underneath. Every message that you send to anybody, customer, colleague, boss, your name. And every small interaction, you create an impression that can be lasting. Pay attention to details. Do not overlook. So essentially, what are we talking about? We are looking at SPARK as defined as self-confidence, passion, ambition, responsibility, knowledge. All these words, just walk across the corridors of this institute. You will see quotes around each of them. A lot of them you find from Stephen Covey. I've been visiting this place probably from 2004 onwards or 2005 onwards. And every time I come into this place, I take note of one quote or the other. And I make sure that I go and quote it elsewhere. And that's my smartness, by the way. Well, that's what I wanted to essentially share with you. This slide, many of you or most of you may have seen. I have played it in this, on this, presented slideshow here, on this screen here several times in the past as well. Very inspirational slide, essentially played for me if you ask me. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up, it knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning, a lion wakes up, it knows that it must outrun the slowest of gazelle or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter if you are a lion or a gazelle, when the sun comes up, you better start running. There is no question of you saying, well, I am this or I am that. Finally, what matters is the speed of the run. I wish good luck to all of you, and I can almost see extremely bright future for close to 800 plus people sitting over here. Mark my words, if you haven't been successful, you did not create it for you. Therefore, stay focused that you create your own success. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Sir, we'd be obliged if you could answer some queries of the sea of inquisitive minds that is before you.
Sure. Just a question. Time to question. I generally make a statement by saying I'm very cautious and conscious that I don't make anything questionable. I also had one of my bullet points in one of the slides, ask questions. So therefore, feel free to ask questions. To the extent I can respond, you will see me responding.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I am Anuj Sathe, student manager BIMM, and I want to ask two questions from the manufacturing sector. Recently, we have seen a strike in Bajaj. It was because the workers were asking for shares in the company. So, and many strikes we have seen because they are propelled by the union leaders with the support of political parties, and which cost to huge losses in the company. So my first question is, where is India heading in labor reforms? And second question is, how does it affect the foreign investments and more importantly, the sentiments in near future?
The last part of the question I did not get, but I probably picked up the most important thing that you wanted to ask. What sort of labor reforms are happening and how such labor situations are being handled or likely to be handled is one part of the question that I picked up. The last part I did not get. Let me answer the first. Obviously, if you ask me the story of human resource as a function, Honorable Professor is here, who taught me the basic things in human resource. This function actually evolved as a gatekeeper's job or a kind of sophisticated security job of being accountable for people and things that come into the organization, more specifically into a kind of manufacturing. That got evolved into over a period of time. Today, if you look at, this is one level above strategic function in the organization. That's because thanks to a lot of enlightened professionals who occupied human resource slots in the organization, created enough of awareness in the organization that it's not material, mother, machine or money that makes the difference, but it's man in the universal sense again of people that make difference in the organization. That awareness is spreading fast. The apparent, let's say, militancy that existed, if you look at probably 15 years back, is actually melting down. If you look at people react only because when their needs are not taken care of. One more level below, people react when they are not even heard. As I said, thanks to the enlightenment and a lot of initiatives that have been taken up by a lot of senior human resource professionals, that situation is being eased out, managed out sheerly through communication, relationship building. So if you ask me, the age-old phrase of IR being replaced by human relations, not human resource, human relation is the way how things will prosper, how things will progress. I do not foresee a situation of people needing to be militant. It's an employer's look out more than an employees, look out to see that an employee is taken care of in the organization. You get me what I'm trying to say? So therefore, a lot of proactive initiative. When somebody comes at the time of interview, typically ask this question: what would you do to make sure that I stay in the organization? I said, this is a question that my boss asks me when I recruit you here. So you don't need to ask me this question. Day in and day out, my job is to keep thinking, how do I make sure that every talent that has come on board actually is nurtured, stays within, contributes, makes a meaningful engagement. So therefore my view is, it will taper off. The IR as a concept, as a need, will taper off. Legal situation, legislation might take time, but that's what I see as. Some of these incidents that you may keep hearing are to be seen as isolated one-off situations.
Hello sir, good evening. I am Mohammad Sham Qadri from BIM Student Manager. So this is one question, sir. USP, unique selling proposition, is the most important thing to do something different in a corporate life. So how to increase our USP in, we have a...
Obviously, okay. If you ask me, obviously, I could have played a few more slides to give you some more insights as what sort of USP you should develop. In fact, I touched upon some of them essentially by saying, communication skills. Is it not a USP? Not only for you, for anybody. An interviewer typically gets 30 minutes time to decide either way. And the decision process is essentially based on what transpired during that 30 minutes time. Transpired as in what has been communicated. Big time USP. Two things that are essentially required for people to go up in the ladder, as I have learned. One is the ability to communicate. Obviously, it's a USP therefore for everybody. Secondly, ability to network. Relationship building matters. These two things are a kind of USP at your level and levels above.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question, sir.
Sure.
The ability to communicate, can you explain it more?
Two things. I already touched upon the dimension of the disposition to speak. Some of us, unless kicked around the butt, would not like to speak anything. If you do not speak anything, how would the other know how great you are? Should you have a viewpoint? Should you have an insight? Should you have a question? You should begin to speak. So therefore, the disposition which has to almost become natural for you to speak, some do not have it, unfortunately. So therefore, you become conscious of. If you ask me, I typically see, you call for a meeting of 20 people of any particular level. You will inevitably see only 4 or 5 people talking in that meeting. Apply this test in your own context, getting into a group discussion. How many of them actually end up talking is the issue. So therefore, that disposition to speak, mark my words, that desire to speak is something that you should cultivate. Keep talking. Doesn't matter what you talk is right or wrong. Doesn't matter. Start talking at least. That's one. Secondly, the medium, the ability to speak, what you speak, which is effective speaking. A lot of people speak without making any sense, right? Doesn't make. Speaking as in effective speaking is creating the desired effect in the partner in communication. Keeping the other partner energized, charged up, pumped up. Purpose of speaking could be to incite people, could be to impress people, could be to inspire people. You should be able to achieve that. As a manager, you want to stand up and tell people, sorry, we have massively screwed up this year's project. It's unfortunate. None of you are going to get any part of your variable pay or incentive for this year. How do you deliver this? You need to deliver this message and should make sure, first of all, they stay with you. Secondly, They bounce back, even more committed to create success for the ensuing year. How do you deliver this message? So two aspects. Obviously, if you ask me, sir, I'm actually doing certain research and study in terms of how do you create powerful, high-impact conversation. There is this book that I refer to, 108 Skills of Natural Born Leaders, written by Warren Harris, and there is another book called Powerful Conversation. So I'm looking at selective thoughts from both these books. Almost developed 7-8 slides, which is readily available with me. That gives certain techniques of how do you develop this powerful, effective communication. That's a matter of detailed discussion. But essentially, I'm talking from two perspectives: the desire to speak, the disposition to speak. That's one. Secondly, the ability to create that impact of your speaking. You want to fire somebody, you want to motivate somebody, you want to excite somebody, you should achieve that. And that's the style that one needs to develop. Yeah, so that's what I was essentially trying to say. Big time topic. I mean, please apply a simplest of test. There would be several situations. In IPC, interpersonal communication, it is said no transaction is a complete success or a failure. Come to think of it, you wanted to go and fire the sales guy who sold you a lousy handset. XYZ features were explained to you and you are not happy with it, and you want to go and probably pour out all your frustrations. You probably blasted out, irritated, and your BP went up, came home. When you are relaxed, you will also think and tell yourself, probably I didn't do the best. That's not what I wanted to do. Sense of failure. Someone who wanted to fall in love, sitting each other across, wanting to communicate the message, unable to pass on that message. Again a failure. Creating desired effect in the partner in communication. I give a couple of examples as part of my prolonged session on communication. Shakespeare's Julius Caesar as a play. Famous speech given by Mark Antony. Speech given by Brutus. Brutus actually murdered, as per the play, murdered Caesar. Public prosecution. Audience, all of Germans, Romans sitting. Mark Antony, close friend of Caesar, comes to the stage, takes the best route of emotional appeal to people, uses choicest of words to express without offending Brutus, which is the caliber of Mark Antony and the public speaking skill of Mark Antony, convinced the audience that this was a heinous crime, whosoever has done it. But he indicated through his choice of words and emotion, it was done by none other than Brutus, but without explicitly stating it. Powerful conversation. What did he want to achieve? He wanted to convince the audience, however did not want to point it out to Brutus explicitly. Brutus comes onto the stage, next speaker, whose challenge is much more immense. The audience is completely swayed to one side. He would almost be shot dead on the stage. Starts his speech. Friends, Romans, no, lovers, Romans and countrymen. Something of this time. He continues, he starts his speech. He talks about the positive qualities of Caesar, but in a kind of rather sarcastic fashion. And he says, Caesar was ambitious. His ambition was more than that of his love for the country and people. And because of which I slew him, I killed him. Who is here so base that you will not love your country more than? Nobody. Finally, Brutus convinced the entire audience that although he did it, it was justified. He asked the question, is there anybody who think otherwise? And the answer was, none, Brutus, none. Ability to give that powerful speech. Only because of the ability to. Mark Antony knew the impact he wanted to create. Brutus obviously knew the impact he wanted to create. Famous Chicago speech given by? Do you know the background? He was denied an opportunity in the first place. How did he start his speech? Brothers and sisters of America. The single salutation, the word, the way he started. I also started my session by saying every speaker gets only 8 seconds to connect with the audience. The way he started. Those of us who have got deep understanding of literature, A famous epic, Paradise Lost, written by John Milton. There is a famous part in it called Satan's Speech. Story of Satan, all of us understand. On a fine day, Satan realized, why is God enjoying equal status with me? Both of them are enjoying a good status. Satan had this thought, why is God enjoying this equal status with me? Let me go and challenge him. He went and challenged God. God in all his omnipotence, all powerfulness, threw Satan out of heaven. It took 16 days and nights for Satan falling from heaven to hell, is what the book talks about. So came along all the Satan's followers. Now imagine what is the condition of the Satan's followers. The head of Satan's, Lucifer, got up to address his audience. It is better to be a king in hell than be a slave in heaven. Every dead soul Satan immediately sprang up into life. It is better to be a king in hell than be a slave in heaven. Impactful communication. What do you want to do? Do you want to inspire somebody? Do you want to inform somebody? Have you achieved it? That's what it is. This could be one-on-one conversations. This could be to larger group, audience. Communication, has it been effective? Very simple. So, there are several techniques being said as how do you do that, and this beautiful book actually explains in detail how do you do that, sir. Sorry, I overindulged in the insight.
So, I have a question. So, this side. So, my name is Pranam Kumar Mishra, student manager BIIB. Actually, sir, as you said that a person's greatness is known by the question he or she asks. So, there is a mental barrier in many of us who have joined this college that if you are asking a question, the listeners might laugh on us. So, what is, if you can enlighten us with your answers, so it might help us in, making the journey more beautiful.
Tough question, honestly. No specialization. There was this Chief Minister of Kerala, EMS Namboodiripad. At least the elders sitting here would recall. Very intelligent man. He was asked an embarrassing question at the time of an interview. By the way, EMS used stammer. EMS used to have the issue of stammering while speaking. He said, no, I don't stammer, I stammer only when I speak. Okay? Clear enough. And he would have been put down with that single statement, you suffer from stammering. Okay, so he answered very simply by saying, I stammer only when I speak. Make light of the situation. Let someone laugh. At least you have made someone laugh good enough.
Thank you, sir.
Let them be happy.
Good evening, sir. I'm Rukmini Bhatia, student manager from BIMM. Sir, as you talked about strengths and weaknesses, and you even spoke about your weakness, that you've scored really less marks in English, and now you stand here speaking really well, a very good communicator. So can you just give us some tips how to convert our weaknesses into strengths, like what we are weak into? So can you just enlighten about the path you took, how you converted your weaknesses into strengths?
Got it. Long story, we need to cut it very short. First of all, it was not a weakness in me. It was not a weakness in me. This book written by Marcus Buckingham IS. The name of the book, I'm trying to recall. I guess it's First Break All Rules, wherein he says, do not work on weakness. If it's weakness, it's waste working on it. Weakness is like a kind of, mental wasteland. You cannot. If it's a real weakness, you cannot. Question is to realize, does it exist in you or not? I'll give you my weakness. If you ask me to sing a song, I will obviously sing. If you ask me to sing it second time, I will never be able to sing the same way. That obviously is a weakness. I cannot sing at all. That's a weakness. I've realized it. And therefore no investment in it at all. Important thing is to realize what is your strength. In my case, what happened was, it's not that I did not have the ability, the discernment and the commitment did not exist. The moment I decided, I need to do it because I discerned. Until I do it, there is no success, there is no life ahead of me, I did it. The moment you realize it's a weakness, leave it there. Me getting into a kind of singing industry, wanting to compete with and wanting to make a career, I'm not going to succeed. Go to the best of coaching sessions or let's say singing practice under best of the singing teachers over here around the world. Never ever. Realize whether it's a weakness or strength in you. That's the important. And stay committed. A few more tips as to how to. My passion, I think it was covered several times. The word passion comes in. Passion became an obsession for me, and it continues to be an obsession today. Anywhere I learn, I see a new word. I make sure I learn it. I write it down. I have a dictionary that has lost almost initial 10 pages because I keep referring to that. 10 pages have been, because it has been used and overused, just lost. And if you happen to come home, you will see the largest number of collections that I have is dictionaries. Dictionaries, English dictionaries. Not that I refer to all of them. I want my children to learn some of these things, and I realize this is a value. Simple things, listen to people who speak well, listen to news or any TV sessions that you are impressed with the objective of learning language. I mean, case in point is only learning language, so therefore I did. Interest of time, sorry I cut short. My story on public speaking is even worse than that, if you ask me. But of course, commitment did create some success, and today I thrive on two things. One, of course, is ability to speak, communicate, because that's predominant part of your job as head HR in the organization. You obviously need to speak, connect with people, and tell them your thoughts, views, and how do you think of them. That's very, very important. Sorry, I think sir has declared that's the last question, so therefore we must respect the protocol.
Getting a job should not be the objective. Getting a satisfied job should be the objective. Stop worrying and start thinking, and you will find solution. And last but not the least, keep the deadlines commitment. Thank you, sir, for your great thoughts. May I now request Velluri sir, Director, BIIB, to present our guest with a token of remembrance.
Thank you, sir. May I now call upon Ms. Pinky Sharma, Student Manager, Sri Balaji Society, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. I am Pinky Sharma, Student Manager, Sri Balaji Society. Learn to overcome our mental blocks. Stop working, start thinking. Importance of time management. How can we make ourselves employable? How should we develop our communication skill? Sir, these words would always be inscribed in our mind and would surely guide us as a student and as a manager in future. Thank you is too mild a word to express a feeling of gratitude to you, sir, for sparing your valuable time and sharing the success mantra of this corporate world with us. We look forward to more enriching interactions with you in future on and off the campus. Thank you, sir, from the bottom of our heart once again. With this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you.
I'll just make a small announcement. I think, see, the non-commercial